We're seeing interactions here between the living components, predator-prey here, as well as you can see some water in the background. So this is all about ecology. And ecology is the study of relationships among organisms and the environment. Okay, I know it doesn't tell you to, there's no real spot, but I want you guys to get that definition down. So with the grizzly bear here, we can see again predator-prey, right? His interactions among two different species here. But you can also see the water. And we're talking about abiotic factors. We're talking about the non-living as well. And it's not simply that there's water. There's turbulent water. There's fast water. There's aerated water. It's cold water. Climate, the rocks, the air, all the things that are not living that are part of the life of the organisms. So then, look at the bubbles here, because the next thing is about levels of organization. So we start with the simplest thing when you're studying ecology, and that's an individual organism. So in your first little bubble, you need to write organism, and then let's follow through an example. So that's alligator. So maybe on top of the line, in the little bubble, put organism, and then underneath it, alligator. And we'll have this example. So, like us, individual humans, we're organisms. Now think back, because we've been talking about this hierarchy of organization for a long time. Remember back in chemistry, we talked about parts of atoms making up atoms, atoms making up molecules. Do you guys remember this? Molecules making up, did we go all the way to cells with that jump? There's parts of cells too, make up full cells. Once we hit a full cell, we have moved from abiotic to what? Just to, what's the name of the class?
Chemistry.
To biotic, bio, okay? So living is biotic, okay? So then we go from cells. Cells make up what? You guys are supposed to know this. Cells make up tissues. Tissues make up organs. Organs make up organ systems. And then organ systems make up a what? Organism. So we're just continuing by getting more and more specific. Okay, now I really want to know if you guys can think about this one. Okay? What do you guys think is going to be the next bubble? So you can look in this bubble here. Where do you think we're going next in this complexity? We're getting more and more complex. We're going up a different level. To what? Everybody kind of try and get an idea. Take a guess.
Population.
Okay, so now what's our population? Now we just have alligators. Not just a species here. Alligators that live close enough together that they can reproduce. They share a gene pool. So second bubble, you're writing population. You can write alligators. Well, there's a circle or a bubble, and then there's one that is including that one. It's a nesting. Okay. What do you guys think the next bubble is, or the next circle is? Look around here. What do we think? Everybody decide on something. What do you think this, not this bubble, not that bubble, just this one right here? Okay, there it is. Community. What is an example? All the living organisms in a particular area. In this case, it's the living organisms in a swamp. And it even is including us in the boat. And you can see a little raccoon. There's a picture like this in your book. But even the stuff we can't see that's living, the bacteria in the water, the bacteria in the air, the bugs in the ground, the bugs on the trees, Okay, the fish, the different birds, the plants. A lot of times we don't want to include plants. Okay, plants are organisms. We could have made this an example of the mangrove tree over there and not even talked about the alligator. Okay, what do you guys think? Everybody, come on. Where are we going to go next? It's this particular place, this area that includes those things. Anybody? Ecosystem. The example now being the Louisiana swamplands. Leslie, you guys. Okay, we've moved beyond life now. That's important for you guys to know. We are now including not just biotic factors, but abiotic factors. So now we're talking about, what do you guys see up there? So what is it? What makes that area? What's included in that area that's not alive? The water, the air, and we'd still call that living stuff. It doesn't matter. If it was once alive, it's biotic. So minerals.
The turtle shell.
No. Weather, dirt, and you have to be careful with soil. A lot of soil does have like leaves and good stuff in it, dead organic material. But temperature, climate, what are the winds like? How much sunlight do they get? All those are abiotic factors that are included in the what again? In the ecosystem. Okay, the last big bubble, like those orange areas on that map. What do you think that's called?
A globe.
Yeah, there we go. So the biomes. So the earth is broken down into different biomes. The biomes are defined by typically the dominant plant life. Is it a grassland? In this case, it's actually a deciduous forest. It's not a dense forest like ours, these swamplands. If you guys ever watch Axemen or any of these logging shows, there's one that happens in the bio. You have cypress trees, you have mangrove trees. Right there, it's not heavily forested. Yeah, but you can see, back in here. So if you were to get back and take a big picture of the area, there would be lots of trees. Deciduous means it drops its leaves. So not conifers, not cones, not pine trees like ours. Okay, so that is all the levels of organization that we're going to talk about for ecology. Now, go ahead for the 3 bubbles. I'm going to get it bigger. We want observation, experimentation, and modeling, the 3 bubbles on the same line. Do you guys see those?
Yep.
So it says research method includes observation, middle one, experimentation, last one to the right, modeling. Yep, the 3 that are all on the same line, and then we'll break those 3 up. For example, okay. Observation, we have 2 different types. Direct surveys and indirect surveys would go in the 2 bubbles that break apart observation. Okay, people, here we go. So, guys, observation. So, when ecologists are studying ecology, they use these 3 different techniques. One is just simple observation. Now, this might not be as easy as you think. Sometimes it is easy, and we call that direct surveys. Actually, it still might not be easy, but you're actually seeing, you're counting the number of plants, you're actually you're seeing with your own eyes. You're counting maybe the number of crickets or the number of mountain lions or whatnot. Indirect, though, is when they have to use other signs of presence. So maybe they can't find the mountain lions or the bears, but they go find the scat. They can see tracks. They have them radio tagged, and they could see them on a map. You know, this gentleman right here, this is a radio sensor, and so he's trying to locate whatever he's tracking there. I know a guy that did this with Cooper's hawks and peregrine falcons, and these guys are more elusive. They're not like the red-tailed hawks. And they also, the Cooper's hawks go in people's backyards, and they'll hang out and get the mice around houses. But they're small, and they're hard to see. He'd get telephone calls all the time. Police would come up and talk to him because he'd be sitting out in cars trying to track his Cooper's hawks. I can't talk. And people would be like, dude, there's a weird guy walking around our neighborhood, or there's a guy sitting in a car, because he could just go to certain spots and figure out, because he knew he got to figure out their ranges. So sometimes you don't even get to see them. So that's called indirect. The gentleman I was talking about was studying the Cooper's hawks. This is an apparatus to hear the callers or the bands. So it's a big metal antenna. Okay? I think there's the picture in your book too. Okay, under experimentation, we of course have two types of experimentation, and we have labs. The activity you guys are going to do next class is a lab experiment. And then field experiment. And there's benefits to these, and then there's negatives to these. And the same thing with the indirect and direct methods too. So in the lab we get a lot more control. We can test one variable at a time, and hopefully that is what I need everybody's attention. Hopefully when you guys design your experiments next class, that's what you're striving for, is control, so that you can test one thing. Okay? However, it's not necessarily the real environment either. It's not like nature out there. The temperature is controlled. I mean, that's not how plants, are living out there. Now, so why we still have to go out in the field. So we get an accurate picture, but also we're not limiting it to one factor. We might not be getting at the actual cause and effect when we study the whole thing in this grand sense. So ideally we put them together. We do both. Okay, the third one, computers and mathematical models. So under models, so computers are becoming more and more and more important to scientists. I mean, we just got done a little bit ago with genetics and sequencing and the Human Genome Project. But that is actually looking at stuff. In ecology, because we're looking at such a huge level that is so hard to understand, like if you want to study the biome, if you want to study all the deserts of the world, this is too much for one mind, even for many scientists working together. So we can use computers and even math to predict things. Okay? So modeling allows scientists to learn how organisms or ecosystems in ways that would not be possible in the regular natural lab setting or outdoors. You're looking at such complex things that we can't get at it. So we're going to use models, like the globe, for example. I've taught you guys about models from the very beginning of the semester, or 2 semesters. We can't really see our Earth until we invented rockets to get out of space. So now we've seen pictures of it, and a few individuals have actually seen it. And then math, just to do calculations. Okay. So the biotic factors back at the mangrove here, this is back at the Louisiana swamp. Here's a real photo. Okay, so we have the plants, Only living things. Bacteria, fish. I don't really see any, but I'm sure there's some fish in here.
Yeah.
So you have to memorize. Biotic factors are living things. I think we did this the first chapter or two also, this vocab term. Okay, what about the abiotic? So over to the right, there are the non-living things. And just in a couple examples, get at least 2 down. Again in this marsh. About water, but also when they're talking about moisture, it could just be humidity, right? We have a very dry humidity here. Okay, things that live in this area are not going to survive here, just on humidity alone. Forget even that it's a lot colder. Okay, moving on. So we have a couple definitions here, don't we? And I want you to get the bold down. So biodiversity, again, we've talked about this many times this year. So biodiversity is variety of living things in an ecosystem. And I want you to note, you have enough room under that, in that box on biodiversity, rainforests have more that are threatened by human activities. So the biome that is in the worst trouble, the land biome on Earth is the rainforest, which is scary since so many different things come from that area, even that we need and use or want, but also the water cycle. And then the last thing is a keystone species. And this is simply a species that has an unusual large effect on its ecosystem. I'm probably going too fast. Let me stop. So this is a vocab term. I don't think I even bolded it on the back of your learning plan, but it's kind of interesting. There are some species that have a big impact on their ecosystem. The beavers, for example, right, will turn a fast river into a big pond or a lake, or a little lake. Elephants, I don't know if you guys realize, but elephants mow down the trees, and they knock trees down, and then that changes it. It keeps it a grassland. Like our fires, when they burn through forests, they keep it a grassland or a meadow. So there are some species that really change the ecosystem. Matthew? So energy is very important. So let's talk about this. Again, this should be a review. Producers, you guys got a spot here? Type, yep, you got, let's see here. Yeah, so we're going to go down type. So producers, on the upper left box there is a type of how an organism gets its energy. So just right under type, producer. And then you want to get that whole statement in that box. They get their energy. Don't write the word energy. Start just using capital E for energy. From non-living resources. And then what are they called? Is that to the box right to the left?
Yeah.
Also called autotrophs, because they make their own food. Nope, now we're using both. And for a description, we're going to put plants, algae. And again, you guys, I've taught you this stuff. So this should be familiar. Oh, this is still with producers, right? So this is more on description.